Hi, and welcome in, everybody. It's Region Weather Meteorologist Matt Wintz. Good to be with you on this Monday, late afternoon, evening. When does evening officially switch over? Is it 5 o'clock? Is it 6 o'clock? I don't know. I think that's up for debate. Maybe there's a set stone. I don't know. But either way, I appreciate you guys taking time out of your busy schedule. I know, in our household, we've got dinner going on. I got dinner done early so we could do this update, but I know a lot of you with kids trying to get dinner, all that stuff going. So I appreciate it. Want to give you this update tonight because we do have that threat. We talked about in Region Weather Live last night, that potential for bigger storms today, perhaps the biggest round of the week, which, says a lot. I mean, we've had some decent rounds of storms here, but it's looking pretty likely that what we talked about yesterday with that line of storms with wind damage, it's looking likely like that's going to happen tonight. All right. And it's going to be even across the entire area right now. I know a lot of people have been PMing me and asking, what about my town? What's the timing on this? So I want to cover that for you. And I want to let you know how realistic this is that we're actually going to get something out of this, because a lot of times storms fade as they move in. Okay, so lots to cover. I'm going to keep it as brief as possible. Remember, all of our Region Weather Live broadcasts that we do, we typically do them on Sunday nights, and then we'll do them for special events, if there's a winter storm or severe weather event like this. But all of them, the whole point of Facebook Live, and it drives me nuts, people that do Facebook Lives, and they just preach the whole time, and then they don't take questions, all right? I want you to ask questions, not now, but in a little bit, all right, when it's question time. But I want to cover everything first. So if you do have a question in mind, like when is it going to hit my town, let me cover that first. Hopefully I'll answer most of your questions for you, and we'll get you on your way. So my goal tonight, everybody, is to make sure everyone feels prepared for what's coming, okay? That we don't need to be scared about what's coming. I know there's a lot of frightening social media out there and a lot of red letters and tornado pictures and all sorts of bad things. Weather Channel, I forgot who I was talking to earlier about the Weather Channel. I think it was Mike, was just saying the Weather Channel's like, pumping the crazy music, like da 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 da, and like, just, it's crazy. Like, let's not hype this up. Let's talk about what it is going to happen and how it's going to impact you. Okay. All right. Real quick, just want to thank our sponsors. FBI Buildings.com is a place to go if you need new pole barn or if you need one renovated. They do wonderful work. They've done over 20,000 in the Midwest. Minogue.life is the website to go to if you guys have any questions around Medicare, Medicaid, supplement life insurance, all that crazy stuff that keeps changing. Michael's been dealing with that for years, and he knows it inside and out, kind of like we know weather inside and out. Minogue.life is a place to go. PSA, those are public service adjusters. If you guys have any damage from this storm system as it moves in, or perhaps you had some damage from last night's wind maker that we had, it wasn't quite what tonight's going to be, but PSA is a little known secret here in Northwest Indiana. All local licensed insured adjusters. It's publicserviceadjusting.com. What they'll do if you have an insurance claim, don't go to your insurance company, go to them first. They'll send someone out right away. They'll take pictures, and they'll kind of be the go-between between you and your insurance agency. They'll take care of everything, and they'll get you more money than you would have gotten with your insurance agency going it solo. And they take the stress away. Reviews speak for themselves on there. Ewing Mechanical Services is ewingmech.com. They do everything HVAC related. If you have AC problems, Ewing MECH is the place to go. They'll come out. They'll do tune-ups for you as well. They're great. TigerPlumbing.net. That is our favorite Northwest Indiana plumber. They've been with me for almost 3 years now. Just a wonderful family-owned business, and they're just fun. They come out for free, which is crazy. A lot of people charge you trip charge, so they don't. TigerPlumbing.net. And finally, last but not least, Grieger's Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram in Valparaiso. They've been serving Northwest Indiana for decades. They're wonderful. They've got brand new Jeeps ready to go. All right, so let's dive into the forecast. Appreciate letting me getting through that. Let's start with satellite. This blows my mind. It's just unbelievable. This is one of those days where instability's off the charts and storms fire in the middle of where the highest instability is. All right, we're now getting into, and I've talked about this before. Mark, I don't know if Mark's on here or not, but either way, corn sweat. All right. What is corn sweat? I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. The corn crop is growing, right? And it's knee high by 4th of July, higher than that if you're using fertilizer, stuff like that. But we've got a lot of corn in Iowa and Western Illinois, right? All that corn crop sweats. All right. It doesn't really sweat. It's called evapotranspiration. Basically, it's putting off moisture from its leaves. Okay. But we're just going to call it sweating for that. And so all that moisture coming off the corn crop makes it more humid in Iowa, in Illinois, Western Illinois, than anywhere in the country, more humid than Louisiana and Florida. All right. And so they've got some of the highest dew points. Dew points have been running in the low 80s across a good portion of Iowa and Illinois this afternoon. So that's what feeds into some of this extreme instability. And yes, that corn crop that grows out there can aid in some severe thunderstorm development. It doesn't aid in derechos and tornado events, stuff like that, but it can add to make storms even worse than they are. All right. It's kind of interesting, but that's what's going on today is that corn is doing its thing and they've got crazy high dew points out towards our west. Our dew points are high here. Last check at Porter County Airport, it's up to 74. So it's tropical. We felt this yesterday before that line came through as well. But either way, I just want you to know it is ready to go out in the plains. And we were just waiting for a cap to break in the atmosphere, and boy, did it. What you're looking at here is satellite, and this right here is a huge explosion of cumulonimbus clouds. They are just shooting up 55 to 60,000 feet in the atmosphere. Just for reference, planes fly typically 30,000 feet. So this is double the height of what planes fly at, and jets, commercial airliners. Can you imagine? I mean, flying through this, all the planes have to go around it. If you look at FlightAware or Flight Tracker, you'll see all the planes going around this huge complex of storms out in Iowa right now because they can't fly through this sucker. This sucker's got updrafts that are going like crazy right now. But you could see it from outer space, just the explosion of clouds coming out of Iowa. Those are the storms. That's the complex of storms that's developing now that eventually is going to roll into our neck of the woods. And what we'll see off of it here in the region, we've got a few high wispy clouds right now, but it's mainly clear, right? Couple low-level cumulus clouds, not a big deal. What we're going to see probably within the next hour is we're going to see that layer of high cloudiness from these explosive thunderstorms quickly move in over us because it's up at jet stream level and above, right? So kind of neat. When you're looking at the sky, you'll be able to tell kind of what's going on. But these are the storms that are developing right now. There are warnings. There have been a few active tornado warnings near Cedar Rapids. A lot of severe thunderstorm warnings with this. This thing is gaining wind energy. There's a lot of hail with it as well. These are nasty storms. And you guys that have been around region weather long enough know that I don't like to hype things up a whole lot. But these are real nasty storms. Okay. They're going to do some damage in Iowa. Western Illinois is going to have some problems as well. There's large hail. And the threat from this, and this is kind of what I want to get into, is damaging winds. We've talked about that. But we could have damaging winds on the order in spots. Doesn't mean everyone's going to get this, but there's going to be a pretty widespread swath of area that gets 75 to 85 mile per hour winds. All right. This is one of those days. We typically have one or two of these events per summer somewhere in the Midwest. And this is one of those events. This is where everything's kind of lining up. There's lots of wind energy coming into the system, aloft and at the mid-levels and at the surface as well. And that's going to feed what we think will probably end up being a derecho. All right. So that's going to be a swath of damaging winds that lasts for hundreds of miles. Okay. And that's what this thing's kind of evolving into. The problem is that path does come through Northwest Indiana. All right. Doesn't mean we're all going to see wind damage, but the potential is certainly there that we could. Okay. So here are the storms getting together right now. I mean, there's a lot of rain with this. When you look at a radar like this, I know it looks scary because there's lots of red. The red just means rain. Okay, there's tremendous amounts of rainfall falling within this. You know, we can go within this radar and look at the wind, and the wind energy is starting to pick up pretty rapidly with this. And there have been areas of spin as well. So that's what we have going on right now. We're going to be quiet until this gets here. All right, I don't see much happening out ahead of this. Once this line gets going, it should start to pick up speed. Right now, it's moving like 25 miles per hour out towards the east. That's really slow. It'll start to pick up speed and momentum as it continues to head our way. All right, so that's what we look at on radar right now. In terms of Storm Prediction Center, we were under a moderate or an enhanced risk for severe weather. I don't like the wording on that. I don't like enhanced and slight. Slight is a pretty high risk for severe weather, and it doesn't sound like it because it's a word slight. So National Weather Service or Storm Prediction Center, we've actually had meetings that I've attended that, you know, we're working on the wording for that to make it a little bit more to resonate with people. Because if you say, oh, there's a slight risk of severe weather, you're like, all right, why are you telling me that? And that's a big deal. But we are now up to a moderate risk, which is a 4 out of 5. You know, maybe 2-3 times a year we get under that maximum. And this is one of those days. So bottom line, what this means is that we just have a real good chance that we're going to see severe weather here in most locations. All right. And you can see the path of that. What I want you to see on here, I don't want you to look at counties and say, oh, Lake County is going to get it, but we're not going to get it in LaPorte County. Mother Nature doesn't follow boundaries. Okay. So we're not looking at lines on this. We're looking at trend. And the trend is from west to east. Severe weather that's in Iowa right now is going to roll east. Real good threat that it stays severe in northern Illinois, and real good threat it stays severe as it goes into northwest Indiana as well. And then it kind of begins to fade as it goes east. But this orange category of enhanced is no slack. If we had that, we would consider that a big event as well. So you can see, I would say anywhere this area in orange has a really good shot at seeing some damaging winds move through and tornadoes as well, unfortunately. All right. So this is what Storm Prediction Center puts out. I don't always agree with it or the boundaries. I do agree with this. I think they did a really good job with this. And they've had this for quite some time before the upgrade as well. In terms of tornadoes, we've got a pretty high risk. All right. This is about as high as it gets here locally. You see the categories, greens 2%, 5% is the brown, and then the yellow's 10%. I believe, I forget the criteria on this, and shame on me for doing that, but I believe it's not a Torcon. Okay, Torcon that they do on the Weather Channel is theirs alone. They came up with that. I kind of like it. I always have. That's, I think, a risk of a tornado within 50 miles or something like that. I believe this is a little bit smaller than that, like a tornado within 25 miles or something like that. Either way, we've got a pretty high risk for tornadoes with this as well. So this line's going to get going, and as it's moving, the tornadoes we're looking at aren't going to be the supercells that develop out ahead of it. It's expected to become a Boeing segment. And what you get within that, you get a tremendous amount of wind energy within this line. And I'll show you on the modeling. That way you can kind of see it visually here, how this comes together. This is the latest HRRR run. I like this. I've looked at some of the other models. I don't, again, models are really bad in this setup. They don't understand how things evolve. They don't understand how things initiate. They're just bad in this pattern, and we're not always in this pattern in the summer. We just happen to be in it today in the last 3 days, all right? That's why your phone apps have been changing like crazy, because it's all algorithm-based. It's all AI, all right? And, you know, some of the modeling doesn't do a very good job with this line in my mind, but I think the HRRR does. I do kind of like it. So this is how the HRRR develops it. You see how this is kind of what it looks like right now in Iowa, right? There's kind of like a cluster of storms. It doesn't really look like a line yet. But over the next couple hours, notice how it begins to form into a line. When you have a line or a linear set of storms, you have wind damage potential with that, all right? When it's like this, when it's cellular and you have different pockets, all those storms can do their own thing, and all those storms can rotate. So you can get multiple tornadoes in that kind of setup. Once it becomes a line, the whole thing is more so producing widespread wind damage. And then you get these pockets. Remember, this is a model. This isn't true. So don't say, oh, there's going to be big storms here, not here. We're just looking at trends with this. But you get these pockets within that line that are producing crazy winds. In this case tonight, we're estimating they can go as high as 85, which is just incredible. Hurricane force, above hurricane force, right? But you get pockets of wind like that. The whole line doesn't have it. The whole line has good wind energy, but you can get some pockets of wind with that. And then in terms of tornado development, what I'm expecting as this moves through is that you get little areas. So if the wind is gushing out, and I use this analogy all the time, if you take a tub full of water or a pool full of water, it's summertime, so let's use a pool example, and you put your hand in it and you push your hand through it, right? You're pushing water, okay? What happens is you get eddies on both sides. You get those little swirls that come off your finger, all right? That's the same thing that's happening in our atmosphere. Our atmosphere is fluid, all right? It's not concrete, right? And so the wind, when it gets going within a system like this, it's literally pushing here. And what you can get on the sides of that big push, wherever that happens to be, let's say this is the pocket of real strong winds right here, you can get quick spin up tornadoes that can cause some pretty decent damage on the north and the south end of that push. Does that make sense? And then you factor this as a whole, you get a big line that has multiple pushes within it. You can get quick, we call them QLCS tornadoes that spin up within that line. So that's the threat as this moves through later on tonight. All right. So that's kind of ugly, right? We don't want to talk about this, but that's kind of what we're dealing with tonight with this setup. Now, I want to answer a couple questions. I know a lot of you are going to ask about timing. When does this arrive? And a lot of you are going to ask, does this fade as it moves in? Because we often have storms that are moving in, they're super severe out in Illinois, and then they hit this Northwest Indiana wall where they die, right? They go away. So I want to answer the fade question first. I don't see this line fading. And the reason why is because I want to go back to this and I want to throw on your instability. All right. We've talked about this before. All these rainbow colors you see on here, I always get a tickle in my throat about 20 minutes in. It's crazy. Oh, I don't know what it is. Maybe I talk too loud. I'm not sure. But either way, this is your instability into Northwest Indiana. Okay. Our instability is off the charts high. It gets lower as you get over towards Ohio. That's the remnants of the line of storms that went through this morning. That being said, we've got plenty of fuel to go. And this isn't something that's going to fall apart once it moves in. It's not something that's going to fall apart once we lose daytime heating, right, from the sun. Once the sun goes down, a lot of times storms will kind of fade. Not the case tonight. This thing's going to be riding this instability boundary, which is now oriented from northwest to southeast. So this is kind of the track the storm's going to take, all right? They tend to ride these instability boundaries. And there's plenty of fuel for that fire all the way through here. So this thing, once it gets going, which it's doing right now, is it's not going to be like diurnal thunderstorms that pop up in daytime heating and then they go away at night. This thing's going to have a life of its own tonight, all right? So I'm not worried about it falling apart, although that'd be nice. Now, the other question is timing, all right? Timing for this line, it's going to start to speed up. So if you're doing the math right now and you're saying, oh, it's moving at 25 miles per hour, we're however many miles away. I already did the math on it. The numbers come out to be about anywhere from 11 o'clock to 1 a.m., all right, Central Time. This thing's going to start to speed up. From experience, these complexes start to speed up, all right? They become cold pool driven. That wind starts to gush out faster, so that takes the whole storm with it a little bit faster. So I would say anytime after 10. I know that's not much of a change, but it's different from the math that you do right now. I would favor more towards 11 Central Time, and that would be from west to east through Northwest Indiana, okay? So here it is right now, and then you give it time here. I mean, we're talking, let's see, that's 1 hour, 2, 3, everything's an hour on here, 4, 5. So it's still a good 5 hours away, 5 to 6 hours away, all right? So we've got some time, all right, before this thing gets in here. We've got some time to monitor it, which is good news. But it certainly is going to be packing a punch even when it moves in here, all right? We'll know how it's behaving when it's approaching Chicago. We'll know, we should have a pretty good idea where those strong pockets are. And there's going to be some predictability to this as it moves into the region, okay? Because we're going to see it coming in, okay? So if there's a chunk of damaging winds moving through Chicago, we know that's going to go out over Lake Michigan, all right? If there's an area of damaging winds moving through Will County or Kankakee County, we know that's our problem here in Northwest Indiana, all right? So we'll be able to see where those pockets of damaging winds are, where the worst parts of the storm are. I have a feeling there's going to be spots within this line that don't have real crazy weather. Couple other notes just from experience of tracking these things. This thing's going to have an awesome looking shelf cloud with it. If you're a photographer, I want you to be safe. But if you can get me some pictures of the shelf cloud moving in, that'd be awesome. Time lapses are going to be great to work with this as well. I mean, it's going to have an awesome shelf cloud with it. But that shelf cloud, keep in mind, is going to be moving a lot faster than usual shelf clouds, okay? Usually storms coming in 35, 45 miles per hour. This thing's probably going to start hauling once it gets going. So just make sure you're prepared for that. Some things you can do right now, and this is really all I have, and then you can just go ahead and start asking questions. I'll be happy to answer those for you. The only question I don't want to answer, though, is what about my town, okay? Because we already went through that, all right? 11, I'd say anytime after 10, just to be safe, but I'm kind of leaning 11 o'clock Central Time from west to east, okay? So once it gets into Lake and Newton counties, all right, probably an hour till it gets to, just east of Valparaiso, Stark County, you'd probably be an hour and a half from that. Okay. That's kind of what we're dealing with. All right. So a couple of things you can do to prepare for this. And first and foremost, all right, we'll be okay. All right. We'll be okay with this. The potential's there for this. It doesn't mean that's going to happen. All right. We've seen it happen before where some areas don't get it, some do. So there's that. But things you can do, make sure your cell phone is charged. We kind of went through this last night, the broadcast. Just charge all your stuff in case. I mean, I would plan on losing power. If you don't, that's great. All right. But let's just plan on it. Just it's better to be safe than sorry. So I'd plan on losing power. So I would go ahead and charge your phone. Anything else that needs charge, if you have a chargeable watch, Apple Watch, Android, whatever you got, charge that baby up too. I don't know. What other things can you do? Lawn furniture, anything that's going to get tossed around. Trampolines always end up in videos. So, if you've got a kid's trampoline, you can move or fold down, bring that inside. Just protect your stuff. All right. And be ready to go for this. Okay. Hopefully we don't end up seeing something like that. All right. But the thread is certainly there for that tonight. Okay. All right. Let's dive into your questions, because that's the whole point, is to interact. Let's see. So I'm going to start here with Dale says bread and milk. That's where I'm starting. Dale, I think 2 loaves of bread and 4 gallons of milk ought to do it. Hold on. Let me buy stock in Strachan Van Til real quick. All right. No, just kidding. That's kind of how people think it works sometimes. I'm going to start just above that. So Alexander says, what do you think the strongest these winds will get is? Alexander, I've seen a lot of these derechos develop, and sometimes they can be on the surprising end of things. I'm going to go ahead and say, if I were a betting man, which I'm not, well, depends on the sport. I would say, I think we're going to get, I'm going to go ahead and say like 88. I think there'll be an 88 mile per hour wind gust somewhere within this. Hopefully it's not in Indiana, right? I'm going to say 88. I wanted to go 92, but we'll go 88. There's going to be some pretty powerful wind once this thing gets going. Not for everybody. Savannah asked, does the lake have any effect on the strength of the system? I'm going to guess no, because of energy. Savannah, absolutely. You've been a region weather follower for a while. I can tell. That's great. In this case, no. The lake is not going to slow this thing down. The good thing about the lake is it's more stable out over the lake, okay? Because the water temperature is cooler relative to the atmosphere around it. So that coolness of the water puts kind of a dome around over the lake of cooler air. But this storm is so elevated. I mean, it's 55, 60,000 feet tall that it doesn't care about this little tiny cold pool down at the surface. It's just going to roll right through that. So yeah, not much of a lake influence. The other thing I wanted to tell you guys is that this thing's going to have a ton of lightning with it as well. All right. Derechos and systems like this have a ton. They just have prolific lightning because there's so much uplift in these storms as it continues to go that it's going to be a prolific lightning producer. So we'll probably have a shelf cloud moving in. Okay. And you'll see just a ton of lightning behind that shelf cloud. All right. Just a ton of it. A lot of it's cloud to cloud, a lot of it's cloud to ground. So there's just incredible amounts of lightning energy from this as well. Iron Jim number 7 asks on our YouTube, and I may be getting way behind. I got to bust through these here. He asks on our YouTube channel, when will we be in the clear? Iron Jim, that's a great question. I would say by 1 o'clock, probably 1 o'clock in our western counties, 2 o'clock just to be safe in our eastern counties. So this isn't something that's going to go all night. This thing's going to blow through pretty quickly. That initial threat with this is going to be this leading edge. Okay, that initial line, that first 15 to 20 minutes of this line is your threat. Okay, that wind is going to hit first. You'll have the wind, the rain, whatever else comes with it. That's going to be in the first 20 minutes of the storm system. And then when it goes by, the severe weather threat will be over. We'll probably still have some gusty winds, but what we'll have setting up on the backside is what we call, this is just stratiform rain. So it's just rain and lightning, all right? But the severe threat goes down after that initial line goes through. It's just this initial line within this that we have to be worried about, all right? The rest of it is just good rain. Flooding is going to be an issue with this as well, flash flooding. We're going to have rainfall rates within this anywhere from 2 to 4 inches per hour. Yes, per hour. This thing's going to rain buckets. Good news is the heaviest part, that 2 to 4 inches per hour, isn't going to last an hour. So we'll probably end up, I could see areas ending up, not everybody, but some spots 1 to 2 inches of rain from this, but in a hurry. All right, so there's that. Timothy asks, are these just brief spin-up tornadoes? Yes, Timothy. I don't foresee any super long-lived tornadoes. Some of them could be on the stronger side, though, tornado-wise. And I would imagine at some point for this event, we're going to see and this may happen in Illinois, what can happen sometimes with these in terms of warnings, we may see a very large tornado warning issued because there's several spin-up potentials within that line. And also some of the destructive winds that are expected to develop within this are going to produce damage like a tornado, right? I mean, they're not going to spin, but if you have 85 to 90 mile per hour winds within this system, they may issue a larger tornado warning for that, so people take it seriously. All right. But I just want to make sure we're in the clear in terms of taking severe thunderstorm warnings seriously. I mean, we can get some nasty severe thunderstorms that produce tornado-like damage. So if you're not under a tornado warning from this, but you're under a severe thunderstorm warning, take that seriously as well. And this might be one of those events. If it gets going like this, it might be one of those that we might want to head to the basement, even for a severe thunderstorm warning. Okay. Because that wind's going to get kind of gnarly in spots. Okay. Jeff says some storm chasers are saying winds up to 100. I could see that, Jeff. I certainly could, for sure. Yeah, Kyle, great question. I think we covered that for you. It'll pass through. The worst part would probably pass through in about 20 minutes. The whole structure will probably pass through, I would say, hour and a half, 2 hours. But that worst of it's just going to be that beginning. And then it's just a general rainfall with lightning. Okay. Well, that's interesting. So Jacqueline says, live in a trailer, Demont, Roselawn area. Don't have anywhere else to go. Where's the best place to hunker down with the kids if need be? So Jacqueline, there's no basement. I get it. Best place is, a center room in that trailer if you can. And I hate for you to get kids. Those of you that do have trailer homes or modular homes, I would hate for you to get the kids out and get them out, especially because this is going to hit later on tonight. Your best place, to be honest with you, is not in a trailer, especially if there's a tornado warning. I mean, they're launchable. They are, if there's crazy winds, if it's just high winds that we're dealing with and not a tornado, the odds are you'll be okay through that. But you want to get in a center room inside of that, whether they a closet or whatever. Put as many walls between you and outside as possible. You've heard that before. The other thing is, during tornado warnings, and what I'll teach kids when I do weather school visits is it's not a fashion show. All right. It's not. I mean, you don't need to look good when you're hunkering down. And so you can do things, and it's recommended. When I was a chief meteorologist down in Georgia, we had a ton of tornadoes down there, right in the deep south. And one of the things I learned down there is that you can put bike helmets on. It's such a good idea. You want to protect your head if there is a tornado warning. I don't want to scare anyone. I'm just giving tips here. But you can put a helmet, like a bike helmet, motorcycle helmet, baseball helmet, sports helmet, right? Football helmet. You can put that on your head just to keep you safe. All right. And the other tornado tip I have, if this, just in general, not saying this is going to happen tonight, is you want to put shoes on before bad storms hit. And I started thinking about that, and this was a tip I got down in Georgia, and it makes total sense. If the worst happens and something happens to your house and your property, and you're coming out of the basement and stuff's a mess, right? Worst case scenario, odds are it's not going to happen, but worst case scenario, you want to be prepared for that. You don't want to be walking around on broken 2x4s and glass and everything. You don't want to be doing that barefoot or in your socks, right? So it's a good idea if you're going to go to a storm shelter, just get your shoes on. It only takes a second. You're not going to look very good. Get your shoes on and get a helmet on. All right. Those are the two tips that I took from the real big tornadoes that they get down south when I have my ears down there. So there's that. Okay. All right. Radiah said, do you think the room without windows in the middle of the house or the crawl space is better? I would say room without windows in the middle of the house. I don't think I'd want to get into a tiny crawl space because that's going to be tough to get in and out of. I mean, I'm a tall guy. I'm like 6'4", so I don't like crawl spaces in general. They creep me out. I would feel very claustrophobic in that situation. If you're in the middle of the house without windows, you're okay. All right. And oftentimes you want to put something over you. A lot of people have put mattresses. If they go in the basement, they put mattresses over the table they're on, stuff like that. I don't want us to get crazy, and I don't want to talk about this too much. There are a lot of kids that watch these region weather broadcasts, and this is all good preparation, but that doesn't mean that's going to happen tonight, okay? I think we're going to get a pretty wicked line of storms through here, but it doesn't mean we're going to have widespread tornadoes with it, okay? And the odds that a tornado hits where you live is not very high, all right? It's really not. I mean, you take the land as a whole, tornadoes size of a football field sometimes, the probability is pretty good that you're not going to have a tornado. The other thing is, when we do live coverage, I always say this to the kids that are listening. there's no reason to be scared of tornadoes. All right. Weather is fascinating. Yes, it can do some ugly things sometimes, but that's really few and far between that you get events like that, right? The potential's there. This event could do some damage tonight, especially with the wind. But in terms of being scared of stuff, I don't want anyone to ever be scared of tornadoes. Okay. I want you to take them seriously. All right. Protect yourself, but there's no reason to be scared of it. And the way I present it to kids in weather school is that doctors, and even you, I mean, most of you, right? We know the different parts of our body. We know where our lungs are. We know where our heart is, right? We know where our nose and our ears are and stuff like that. Meteorologists know the different parts of a thunderstorm, all right? If I'm doing radar analysis, I can tell you where that tornado is going to be down to street level. I probably wouldn't go that specific. I'd probably go a little bit more general, but we can tell the different parts of the thunderstorm. It's not just random, all right? These tornadoes aren't just random. We can track them and see them as they develop, before they develop, and after they lift, all right? And that's the reason why, tornado warnings are so important, because the tornado warnings are issued by the National Weather Service in Romeoville. They're local to the region, right? And they are the ones looking at the radar and issuing those tornado warnings polygon based. Okay. So they're based on where that track of that tornado is going to go. And most of the time they nail it. Right. So those are meteorologists working for you that know the different parts of the storm. So it doesn't need to be scary. Just make sure you're paying attention to watches and warnings. So make sure there's a way that you can get a location-based warning on your phone, whether that be an app. Allow location when it says, do you want to share your location with this weather app? Yes, you do. I don't like to share a lot of stuff, but that's one thing I'll share, because that'll tell you if whatever county you're in, whatever spot you're in, if you're under a warning, you'll get an alert on that. All right. So just make sure you have a way to get warnings. And if there's a tornado warning issued, that's when you need to get serious and protect yourself. Okay. Doesn't mean it needs to be scary. Just means you need to prepare. Okay. So there's that. Let's see. So, Lisa, I think I answered your question. I'm seeing a lot of questions coming in. How long do you see these storms will last? So we kind of talked about that. Lorna, tornadoes are not a definite with this. No, absolutely not. There's a higher than usual threat of spin-up tornadoes from this. I think wind is going to be a bigger issue out of this. And Lorna, if you have the option, go into Mom's who has a basement, or if you guys have an option to prepare right now and go somewhere that has a basement, I don't think it's a bad idea. Make it a fun time out of it, okay? Go to Mom's, bake some cookies together, spend some time with her, do stuff like that. Make it fun for the kids as well. Hey, here's what we're doing. We're going to have a sleepover in the basement this evening. Listen, I'm a parent of 4. I get it. And my kids are 8 and under, okay? We've got a newborn as well. I mean, we've got a lot going on in our house. And the last thing you want to do is disrupt your family routine, especially on a Monday. I mean, we're just getting our week started, okay? I get it. But situations like this, just keep an eye. What I would do if I were someone let's say I were someone in Northwest Indiana who has a basement, okay, and I have a big family, which speaks to a lot of you, okay, with kids, I would go about my routine as usual. Get the kids to bed, put them where they're normally sleeping, okay. Good night. You don't need to tell them there's big storms coming or anything like that, okay. And then plug yourself in, make sure you're paying attention to the radar, make sure you're keeping an eye on your phone to see if you're going to get a warning. Okay. Remember, watch means it could happen. Warning means it is happening. Okay. So if you get a warning and it says, tornado warning for your county or wherever you live, that's when you want to, get the kids up. Hey guys, storm's coming in. Just to be safe, we want to get down to the basement. Okay. Let's have some fun with it. I mean, they're going to be sleepy. Maybe they haven't gone to sleep yet. But that's what I would do. I probably wouldn't, going into this quite yet, say, hey, we're all sleeping in the basement tonight because there's a big tornado threat. All right. The tornado threat isn't the primary threat in my mind. It's the damaging winds. Okay. So I would probably just kind of go as normal for that. Okay. Sherry asks, I saw a question earlier. Will there be any prefrontal supercells? I love the scientific question. I don't think so, Sherry. Right now, there are prefrontal supercells. But in terms of this one, there may be a couple downpours that develop out ahead of that main line, but they'll quickly get absorbed with that. I think this is going to be kind of a one-shot deal for us with a linear segment that comes in. All right. That's okay. All right. And I'm seeing a lot of questions as well. I saw them going back. Recommendations. I'm going to fast forward a little bit. I'm so sorry because I'm missing a lot of questions. I want to make sure I get back down to the bottom here. Kathy asked a good question. This is recent. Do you expect watches and warnings to be issued? Yeah, they'll extend. So they're going to issue a watch. It'll probably be a tornado watch that they'll issue out in advance of this thing if they haven't yet. They want to give this time to develop to see kind of how it's evolving. But they'll probably issue a tornado watch out in advance of it. I would imagine we will have a tornado watch issued for us later on this evening. Okay, remember, watch doesn't mean it's happening now. It means it could happen at any time. Okay, so we'll see. And then warnings. I mean, the warnings are based on what's happening with the storms. I would imagine we're going to have warnings, but we have to see how it evolves. Mary has some great tips. Mary, thank you for those. Make sure you have a bag packed, important papers, medications, pet carriers, leashes, and have multiple ways to receive warnings. Amen, Mary. Good job on those tips, for sure. We should probably already have a bag prepared with stuff like that, right? Like an emergency bag with all the stuff that you need. That way you can just grab it. If house fire. I'm just saying. Disaster stuff like that. You usually don't have time to go grab everything, so you probably want to have something prepared already for that. There's that. Chris asks, flooding highly likely. Chris, flooding's not highly likely, but we are pretty saturated from last couple rounds of storms. I'm expecting rainfall rates within this to be 2 to 4 inches per hour. We're not going to have that kind of rain for an hour, thank goodness, but it's going to come down real good with that initial line. And then on the backside, it'll just be kind of moderate to heavy for a while before it lessens up. So I do think we'll have some flash flooding in spots that see that 2 to 4 inch per hour rain the longest. But I don't think it'll be a widespread flooding issue. And most of it's going to soak into the ground later on tonight, like overnight tonight, because, we've just been dry overall, late spring and early summer. That's awesome. Brittany, I love your comment. I blame local on the 8s for my childhood and the alert for tornado warnings for my fear of severe weather. I agree. I totally understand what you're saying. That's so funny. I was so addicted to local on the 8s. I think that's what piqued my interest in meteorology. I think I've been doing this 15 years now. So there's that. That's so funny you say that, though. And then the alerts are just awful. The sound is just awful, but it does get your attention. So there's that. Maxwell, I know Porter County Fair is going to be great later this week. Thank goodness. The Porter County Fair usually has weather like this, but boy, it's going to be the payoff from all these storms is going to be a really nice air mass Thursday, Friday, Saturday, even Sunday. We're going to have low humidity, nice northwest flow, lots of sunshine, just quiet weather. Let's see, Shauna. Yes, this will come just as far south as Couts. Absolutely. Good question. Peggy, I see your comment there. Tyler, you're welcome. Absolutely. Okay. So I'm seeing a lot of questions about, am I going to go live tonight? So here's the deal. I want to, okay. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to. And for those of you that aren't familiar with what I do and who I am, so I do the morning show, and it starts at 2:00. And I'm based in Cleveland now. I used to be a meteorologist at Lakeshore Public Television in Maryville. All right, we used to do Lakeshore News Tonight. That's where I got my start in meteorology. Okay, it was PBS station in Maryville, local, all that stuff. That station decided to not focus on TV anymore. All right. So they got rid of the newscast, focused more on radio. So I had to find a new job. So then I got a job as a chief meteorologist down in Georgia. Okay. That's when I spent my years in Georgia. And then time was up there. I wanted to get up to the Midwest again. That's, where I grew up. And so I got a job in Cleveland. And I've been there. I've been in Cleveland for 7 years now, which is crazy. Time flies. We've had a bunch of kids. And I'm now a senior meteorologist at the NBC station in Cleveland. And I do the morning show. And the problem with I never did the morning show till January. They moved me to the morning show. I used to do evenings. And doing the morning show is it's brutal. It's brutal. So, I'm up 2:00 in the morning to go prepare for my show, which starts at 4:30 and goes all morning. Right. So that being said, my schedule has changed, and unfortunately, region weather does not pay the bills. Right. My job at NBC does. And that's my career. That's my full-time job. And I owe it to that job to be on my best. Okay. I probably am going to go to bed here shortly. All right. when I start getting watches and warnings, there's a small chance that I can get up, come downstairs, and start doing some coverage. But unfortunately, I don't count on it. All right. And I hate to say that. It's just, I cannot be a zombie tomorrow. We've got a bunch of extra things we're doing after the show as well. It's a brutal week for my family and I schedule wise. And again, you don't need all of that information, but I just want you to know, I do not plan on doing coverage tonight, but there's a slim chance that I will hop on and I'll be super tired. But I just want you guys to know my heart is to keep you guys safe. Okay. That's why we're doing a broadcast right now, right? I'm taking time away from my family and dinner and all the kids and playing and stuff like that to do this, because that's where my heart is, to keep you guys safe with these storms. And I want nothing more than to track them from west to east through the region. Unfortunately, that timing is awful for my schedule and I owe it to them first. Okay. Thank you, Giselle. I see your comment on YouTube, so completely understandable. I'm glad that you appreciate that and respect that as well, because trust me, I want to track these, but timing is just really bad on that. Okay, so there's that. So thank you guys. Wonderful comments. You guys you're too good to me. I really appreciate that. I mean, some of you can be mean to me, and that's fine. All right, people are just so nice. So there's that. So that being said, probably won't. Okay, but I want to make sure you're prepared for this. Okay, so I'll leave you with this. Okay. Ask any more questions if you have them. Feel free to ask. I'm happy to answer those. Just make sure you're prepared, okay? I could see this. I don't. My gut usually tells me how these things will evolve. And, from doing this for years, I do feel like more times than not, it's right. And my gut says we're going to get some good storms tonight, okay? But there's a chance. There's always a chance that this thing ends up being a flop, all right? And that maybe there's a complex of storms up in northern Illinois that goes out over the lake, and that's the bad one. And then we get like a weaker line through here. That can certainly happen. Mother Nature is in charge of this, and I'm a religious person too, so God's in charge of this, right? But we're just forecasting it. We're trying to predict the future. We're trying to predict what this line looks like. And we can look at all the modeling in the world. I mean, we're looking at the modeling and saying, oh, this is a nasty line that's going to move through. It doesn't always look like this part right in here, there's nothing. You get some rain and wind, that's it. All right, I'm hoping that happens. All right, but the potential's there. That atmosphere is loaded and ready to go, and the potential's there for some pretty nasty storms here tonight. Okay, so here it is coming together now. This is kind of an update on the radar in terms of what we're seeing. It's starting to form into a line, and so what I'm waiting on meteorologically, see this little line that kind of forms in the back, see how that's now catching up. That's going to be your push. So these are just kind of clusters of storms right now. But now, over the last really half hour or so, we're starting to see this push come into that. That's what's going to get this thing going and pick up that forward speed. It's now halfway through this line. And once it gets out in the leading edge, that's when we'll see this thing start to bow out a little bit. Okay. It's developing into southern Wisconsin right now. We're getting some development out ahead of that. Okay. I would imagine this will continue to fill in up in this region here. We'll probably have heavy thunderstorms and heavy rain that develop with some hail in northern Illinois and Wisconsin. We'll probably get some storms out over Lake Michigan first before anything else happens. And then what we're tracking and what you're going to be tracking on radar, if you're a radar junkie like me, is this section right here in eastern Iowa. Okay. That's the section that's going to eventually start to form into a line segment and head our way. Okay. So as of right now, I mean, this is a pretty nasty set of storms. Let me check warnings real quick. There's 3 different tornado warnings with this now. There was one when we started this. 2 of them happen to be within that chunk right here, just north of Cedar Rapids. Okay, that's the part we'll keep an eye on. There's giant severe thunderstorm warnings with this. That's how they're going to issue them, because it's going to be a line. So they're going to issue these huge 8-county severe thunderstorm warnings out in advance of this as well. So that's kind of what they'll be dealing with. Okay. Let's see. Any other questions that I'm missing? You guys are so nice. I appreciate that. Carl, and I see a couple people just joined in terms of and are looking for timing on this. I'm thinking anytime after 10 to be safe. I'm leaning more towards 11. Okay. And that's central time. I mean, we still got some time before this thing moves in here. Okay. It's not even in Illinois yet. So that gives you kind of a heads up for it's going to be a little while. Okay. So I would say 11 o'clock, and that would be for Lake and Newton counties. And then, it would advance east, Porter, LaPorte, Jasper, and Stark counties after that. Okay. So from west to east. So we've got a little bit of time. Okay. So just keep that in mind as we go forward. We'll probably get some kind of tornado watch issued. Probably won't be too long. Let me check real quick. I want to make sure I'm leaving you with the right info. Let's look at station plots real quick. I'm going to take Cape off. This is for nerds. These are all the old-fashioned station plots. You can probably not see these numbers, but we've got temperatures upper 80s. It's heading into 90-degree temperatures, but these dew points, these little green numbers, are just incredible. The dew points are up in the low 80s for a lot of this. So there's so much moisture. And again, we covered that top of this broadcast. That's due to the corn crop. All right, all the corn out there, it has evapotranspiration. There's moisture coming off of all the corn, and it's making it super humid. The most humid place in the country right now, more so than Florida, the Gulf Coast, all those areas. The most humid place in the country is Iowa, Western Illinois, and even here in the region. Isn't that incredible? And that's due to the corn. So yes, the corn does add and make these storms worse, which is crazy to think about, right? Okay. Yeah, Alexis, we could do that. We could send this thing out over the lake, see what happens. That's awesome. Kelly asked a great question. What radar is best for us to follow these? That depends on your level of expertise. The one that I like, you think you have to pay for it though. I get it paid through work. I just expense it because we use it all the time. It's called Radar Scope. There's another one called Radar Omega. That's good. Those are tiered pay programs though. The best radar to get is one that you understand. Okay. The Weather Channels isn't bad. AccuWeather's isn't bad either. They make those very user-friendly for anybody. The most important thing to me, I mean, any radar is going to show it. I like the high-res stuff because I can get into the weeds in terms of where the circulations are and stuff like that. Average user doesn't need to know that. But I think if you just download one of the basic, like Weather Channel, AccuWeather, that's fine. That stuff will do. Okay. And you can track these storms in, you can see them. What is most important, though, isn't that you have a good radar app. It's that you have an app that alerts you when there's a warning and where you live, location-based, okay? All the major apps will do that, the Weather Channel, AccuWeather. I forget all the other ones like the Telecast, all that stuff. So all the ones will do that, but just make sure you have location-based alerts on, okay? I know I don't like to share things. If something says, do you want to share your location with this app all the time? I say, heck no. You want to do that with weather apps when there's severe weather. You can always shut it off, okay, in location settings, but you want to turn that on because that's the way it's going to know where you are, and it can alert you to where the warning gets issued when that happens, okay? Yeah, Samantha, crazy about the corn, right? I covered it a little bit more intense at the beginning of this broadcast. You can go back and watch once we post it. So there's that. Well, good, Diane. I'm glad you appreciate the weather information, make it sense and easy to follow. I mean, that's the whole point. If I wasn't a meteorologist, I'd probably be a teacher. I love teaching weather. I love when people teach me things about their subjects and their expertise. But I feel like, there's a lot of information to share, and it's cool stuff. It's science. I mean, science is cool, right? We all certainly could use a science brush up every now and then, right? That's awesome. Alexis, that's funny. I see your question there. And you know what? If you've got, I don't want to say that. It's not fall. In the fall, I was going to say, if you have yard debris that you want to get rid of, just put it out. So the wind will be blowing out of the system, probably west to east. So put it on the east side of your lawn. It'll go into your neighbors. It'll be great. So there's that. My radar app is good. That's right. Yeah. Oh, did we get a watch issued? I'm a little behind on that. Sorry. I've been doing this. I don't see one issue, but there probably is one. I don't have my weather set up where I get all the alerts and stuff. You guys probably know if something was issued over me. So watches and warnings. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. Oh my goodness. I'm so sorry. Yeah, that's embarrassing that I missed that because I didn't get the text from that. That's strange. Normally I get an update on that. I did not. I don't know why I didn't get the text alert. That's great going into an event like this. But yes, there are these are all severe thunderstorm watches now. All of the regions under severe thunderstorm watch. Michigan, they've got it too, and then downstate Indiana. Okay, so those are your severe thunderstorm watches. Here are your warnings coming. Okay, yellow severe thunderstorm, red are tornadoes. So there are several active tornado warnings with this. Again, this is still far off. Okay, it's not even in Illinois yet. I know on this map it looks really close to us. It's not. Okay, we've got some time for this. Okay, all right. So, oh, you guys didn't either. So some of you didn't get it yet. That's interesting. Yeah. Anyway, that's it. I don't know what they're doing over there, but just if there's not a severe thunderstorm, I don't know. I didn't get the alert either, which is strange. If there's not a severe thunderstorm watch, pretend there is. Okay, we're gonna get severe weather tonight. So there's that. Yeah, Mary, I can do that real quick. Let me do this for you. Give me a second here. I'm going to close that out. Hold on one second. Okay, I'm going to switch sources. You're going to get a big picture of me real quick. I'm going to go over to my Radar app. We're going to do just a little bit of tracking here before bed. A lot of people drink warm milk before bed, or they drink golden milk. You know, they have little NyQuil, whatever it happens to be. I like to do some radar tracking before bed. I don't know about you guys. Yeah, I mean, it is, Mary. It's not, you know, I've seen worse. But yes, it is popping tornado warnings as expected. I mean, there was a bigger outbreak in New York last week. They had 8 tornado warnings from north to south with some of those storms. Okay, let's dive into this here. We're going to do a little radar tracking, okay? I'm going to share this. Look at the speed we're doing this with. Nope, that's not it. Here we go. Okay, we're diving into radar analysis, everybody. Buckle up. Why not? All right, let's turn the radar on for these areas. Once this thing gets out of the way, we're going to go, let's go Davenport's radar. Here we go. There's the thunderstorms. There's all the lightning with all those little plus marks that you can see there. And these storms, again, are packing a punch, all right? Active tornado warnings are in red. Let's get it pretty well. All right, this whole line is starting to come together really well. As you had the request for to turn on velocity. What she's asking for is so basically when you look at this radar, this is reflectivity, okay? Reflectivity shows us how heavy it's raining. That's all it shows. This doesn't show tornadoes. It shows how heavy it's raining, and it's coming down in buckets, okay? We can also look inside the storm as meteorologists, and we could see what the wind is doing within that storm. And that's how tornado warnings get issued, stuff like that, all right? And holy moly, yeah, this is nasty. And what we're seeing here, I'm going to put it in motion so you can see this here. This radar is APIDS, all right, and it changes colors, moving into Dyersville. I believe double wind there. There's another pocket here and there. This new one, but this is kind of Nintendo. All right, it's very pixelated, but it gives us a good idea what's going on. This gush of wind here. Let me just stop that. This gush of wind up here is just really brutal, and that's heading south. And this is kind of how it's going to go tonight, guys. Is we're going to look for pockets of it. So there's areas here that aren't seeing severe weather. So for example, as this line comes together, it's real bad here. Very strong winds with that damage. Like damage is likely with that. You have areas of spin here. There's another area of spin here where there could be little tornadoes. But then you've got this area here, okay, like right in here, that has no. I got to be careful how I'm drawing. But that area has nothing. I mean, they're gonna get rain and wind, but the worst is north and south of them, and that's how it's going to be, I think, as it comes through the region. Okay, so we'll see. JP, I got your comment early on working overnights. I know you're sacrificing sleep as well, so I feel you, buddy. Trust me, it's not easy. So there's that. Okay, so that's our radar analysis. Okay, again, these storms are heading our way. Let's check real quick and see. I mean, look at this wind of 80 miles per hour within this. So there's your 80. I'm going to go back to someone asked me at the beginning of this broadcast how gusty I thought the winds were going to be with this system, strongest gusts, and I said 88. I'm going to go 92. All right, that was my initial gut. I think we'll have some 92 mile per hour wind gusts out of this. Not necessarily local, but somewhere out towards the west. So I want to see how fast this is moving, because it was 25 earlier. Now it's 40. So yes, it's starting to pick up speed as we guesstimated. All right. So let's time this out just for kicks here, okay? I can't see because my menu, you guys can't see it, but my menu's right over this bar for the streaming service I have. Oh, I can hide it. Oh, thank goodness. Okay, there we go. So let's time this out. I'm going to take this gusty wind here per hour. I think it's going to move faster than that eventually, but we're going to calculate this out, okay? We're going to go through time. We're going to go look here. So that's Gary in 299 minutes. Can someone quickly do the math on that? So that's easy. That's 5 hours. Okay. So 60 goes into 305 times. So that's about 5 hours at its current speed until it gets to Gary. Okay. We're at 6 o'clock, almost 6 o'clock p.m. Central Time right now. 5 hours. There's your 11 o'clock. All right. So there's that. So yes. So I would say 11 o'clock, just in case it speeds up. Let's go 10:30 Central Time just to be safe. We'll probably see the lightning coming in at 10:30, but 11 o'clock, I'm expecting that to come on in. Okay. All right. So that's all I've got for you. I'm going to try to hit the hay here, get a little sleep. Again, guys, I can't guarantee I'm going to be with you later tonight. All right. That's my REM sleep time for my 4 hours I get, which is just awful. But anyway, that being said, just make sure you're taking precautions. You can always go back and rewatch this broadcast on our Facebook page. Okay. There's some good information in there about how I'm expecting this to go. None of that's changed. Okay. And we'll get through it tonight. All right. When I'm up bright and early in the morning, I'll throw an update out there. My fear is that it's going to be gone by then. So just make sure you have ways to get watches and warnings. Okay. And be safe tonight. All right. Doesn't need to be scary. It's fascinating. It's cool. But let's protect ourselves and make sure our property is good and stuff like that. And tomorrow morning we can say, hey, remember the Duratio of 2024, because this doesn't happen very often. Okay. All right. You guys are welcome. Thank you for taking time out of your schedule to join me. I really appreciate it. I mean it. I know you've got busy schedules. You're doing things. I get it. Okay. So your sacrifice is greater than mine. Trust me. Okay. All right. Thank you guys. I appreciate you. All right. We'll talk to you soon. Okay.